Welcome to Beyond the Pod, presented by SodaStick.com.
Brunette, he moves, Brunette back in, he scores! Minnesota has upset the Colorado Avalanche! Andrew Brunette, the game-winning goal!
Here are your hosts, the second greatest scorer in Gopher hockey history, Pat Micheletti, and the second greatest hockey analyst on this podcast, Brandon Mileski.
Hello, welcome to another episode of Beyond the Pod. As always, it's brought to you by SodaStick.com. Brandon Mileski, along with former Golden Gopher great Pat Micheletti. Pat, we've made it through the offseason. At the time of this recording, we are 1 day away from the Minnesota Wild regular season beginning.
Oh, does time fly, Brandon? But I think we're all ready. You know, we're ready for it to begin.
We are ready, and you know who else is ready?
The one and only.
The one and only Kevin Falness. We are merging Beyond the Pond with Beyond the Pod today. Hi, Kevin. How are you?
Hello, boys. I think I'm ready, too. I guess I'm ready for hockey season to start. I was listening to some of the broadcasts last night, and they were saying the postseason ended 4 months ago. I can't imagine being a part of Tampa Bay or Colorado and jumping back on the ice already, but here we go.
Here we go. I want to get to both your guys' opinion on this. How much stock, how much value did you put into preseason? Because I think it's hard to watch the preseason games and not be encouraged, not just by the winning, but some of the guys that we were hoping to make pushes all seem to play well. But I have fallen for this trick before. I mean, let's face it. Like last year, Adam Beckman was great in the preseason and then didn't make the team and ended up having a poor year in Iowa, right? So how much stock do you put into the preseason? Because just watching preseason, I was pretty encouraged with the team through their 6-7 games.
Go ahead, Kevin.
Well, it's certainly there's a lot to be encouraged by. I don't know that you put a lot of stock into the bulk of it, but the preseason is about not only getting yourself tuned up for the regular season, but a chance to see these young guys. And that's why I think it's important for Rossi and Addison in particular, for them to show so well in the preseason. Definitely, that's something that piqued my interest. For the other guys, what do you take from the fact that their special teams were great? To me, this is all fine tuning for the regular season. So it's very encouraging, but it'll mean more starting tomorrow and beyond.
Yeah, for me, I watch the preseason to literally watch 4 to 5 guys every year. In which 2 of those or 3 have a legit chance of making it or be called up at some point in time. I can't look at the power play. I can't look at the penalty kill. It's all about execution and, getting, as Kevin said, fine-tuned for the regular season. So camp for me is all about watching the young kids and seeing who's developed and who can possibly crack the lineup.
All right. So what was your impression on some of those young kids?
Well, I'm encouraged by the fact, again, that if there are injuries, you can be, rest assured you've got some guys who can play. Because I think Mitchell Chafee was close to making it. I think Mason Shaw is right there on the cusp. And you can know that, oh boy, we have to hide them, or you don't have to do that with these guys. So from that perspective, I'm really happy. I love the youth of the defense should someone go down and what's coming up. So so from that perspective, I was pretty encouraged.
To me, Brandon, that's what I watch the preseason for. It's for those young guys. I don't take much out of it other than that. And to me, we got a full eyeball full of that with the first World Juniors that happened about a month ago. The prospect pool on this team is something that we haven't seen probably ever. And I know there was the time with the Zucker, the Granlunds, the Coils when they were all coming up. But I think that's just a drop in the bucket compared to what they've got, not only in Iowa, but around the globe with some of these young kids that are coming up through the system. And that's what I think was fun to watch. Not just the Beckmans, but the O'Rourkes, the Lambos, the Hunts. I mean, there's some really good talent coming the next few years here from Minnesota, and it's a bevy of talent coming their way. It's great. It's fun to watch them on the ice.
It's a pretty exciting time for the Minnesota Wild because it's not often you have a team that is a winning team that is a contender, right? They might not have the strongest shot to win the cup, but they have a chance to be a Stanley Cup contender. Combine that with a young prospect pool. And we know there are no guarantees with these prospect rankings, but you'd rather be higher than them than lower. And as you guys mentioned, I think that's the one thing you can take out of the preseason games. They don't have full NHL lineups through all these preseason games. They had a lot of lineups where you got guys that are playing in Iowa, some guys, like a Carson Lambos and juniors. And the depth, to me, is what showed out. Like they have speed throughout the entire lineup all the way through. And they've got a good mix now of being a winning team that's a contender, but also you have a young batch coming up, and that doesn't happen very often.
Hey, well, Pat, before you jump in, that's one thing I've heard Billy say a couple of times over the last couple of weeks. Full marks to Judd Brackett and his staff of what they've been able to do to restock the cupboards on the fly while still competing. That's not something, I think, to Brandon's point, that's not something that's done easily or done usually ever. Usually you're bottoming out to restock that talent pool, and they're not doing that. They're competing on a regular basis and on a real high level.
Well, what's really crazy about the whole thing is that automatically 12 point whatever million is gone, right? And so you would think that they would be over the cap or right at the cap. Well, they still have almost $3.5 to $5 million.
Yeah, I think like $5 million. Yeah,
$5 million if they want to make a deal. But what's really interesting, and Kevin, you mentioned the names of the decor: Hunt, Lambos, O'Rourke. We didn't mention Faber. We didn't mention Peart.
Yeah,
right. Okay, but that doesn't necessarily mean by Brodin, by Dumba, by Spurgeon. What it does, in my opinion, because these guys are all legit players, all guys that can play, in the NHL, it gives Billy some chips to play with should he want to make a move when they have more money. So I really think they're setting themselves up pretty darn well going, further down the road.
Well, yeah, and I was just going to make the exact same point, Pat, when you brought up, the dollar amounts going to move forward. It was clear that they wanted to leave some spots available for young guys to earn spots. And I think up until this point, the young guys seemingly performed well. We'll see once they get to the regular season.
Yeah.
But it's almost like a tryout basis for half the year of, all right, we're going to give Sam Steele a look, and we'll give Marco Rossi maybe eventually a look. And if we feel like there's a void in the lineup to make this team go over the top, we can now address that with our salary cap space later on. If not, we can. If the young guys perform like we think they might be able to, and so far they have, we can go that route as well.
Yeah, I agree. And I like the fact that, when you get drafted, and we brought this up before with Guerin, and you invest a lot of money in kids, and you get a good coach down in Iowa, and you develop these guys. At some point, they need a chance, and with the salary cap the way it is, and the money that they have, and guys like Dewar, Duhaime, Rossi, the guys like that are getting that opportunity to see if they can play in the league or not, and I think that's great.
Yeah, it's one thing to do it in the preseason. Let's see 20 games into this season where we sit. But my thinking is, I'm guessing that when they move Kulikov, when they move Cam Talbot, and get that little cushion there for their salary cap, there was some thought about adding possibly someone into the mix. But I think these guys showed so well in the preseason. Not only Addison, not only Rossi. You mentioned Sam Steele. I think he's been great. Tyson Jost was fantastic in the preseason. So I think these guys did a great job in showing their stock for Bill Guerin and Dean Evison. And I think they showed they belong, made them realize they don't need to make a move at this point.
All right, Kevin. Over the offseason, Cam Talbot gets traded away to Ottawa. So we're rolling with Marc-Andre Fleury and Gustafson, who they acquired back from Talbot and that Ottawa trade. What is your confidence level in the goaltending this season?
Oh, I feel great about Marc-Andre Fleury. Obviously, Philip Gustafson is the unknown commodity here. And again, take preseason hockey for what it's worth. He looked great in the time that he got between the pipes during the exhibition season. I guess time will tell. I guess if you come into this season, you have Fleury pegged at 50. Do you feel confident in giving the other 30 to Gustafson? I don't know yet. I mean, we have to see more. Again, get 20 games into the season, and I'll get back to you. I've liked what I've seen from him thus far. I'll tell you this much. Everything you know about Marc-Andre Fleury, it's the opposite for Philip Gustafsson. He's a guy that is solid when it comes to his positioning, when it comes to playing the position. Off the ice, he's calm, he's cool, he's very relaxed. You might see him crack a smile, whereas Marc-Andre Fleury, very flamboyant in the net and out of it. So I don't know, maybe that'll be something they can play off of, the fact that they are two completely different personalities and two completely different types of goaltenders. But it's too early to tell if we can trust Philip Gustafsson to carry the workload for at least 30 games.
Yeah, well, for me, Brandon, this whole season hinges on their goaltending, because we don't know if Fleury is going to play 50 games. I think he played 55 a year ago. Okay, let's call it 50. He plays 50. He's not going to go 50-0. It's just impossible. And then you have 32 more games left.
That'd be pretty impressive if he did.
Yeah, it'd be pretty impressive.
Yeah.
And he'd be MVP.
That'd be fun to watch.
It would be awesome. And then you have 32 games left. And those, let's call them going to Gustafsson. Well, he hasn't won yet. Sample size is small. But the point is, he's going to have to win games. He's not in the net to just give Fleury the night off. He's got to win games. And if Fleury's not going to win 50, maybe he won't win 40. You've got to get your wins. And I look at the lineup, and I'm absolutely fine with the lineup. Not a ton of changes, and they're good and they're capable. But can the goaltending hold up? If it can, that's great. But that would be my major concern going.
All right, Kevin, before we move on to a new feature on the Beyond the Pod called Puck Props, I want you guys to rank the Central Division. What's your predictions in the Central Division 1 through 8? Can you rank them all the way down?
Do you want me to start?
Yes.
I'll start with it. How about I'll give you the number 1 team. It's got to be Colorado. I know that they lost Nazem Kadri, and they lost Darcy Kemper, but that is still a beast, man. What a team that is, and I think they're the team to beat in the Central Division. I'll give you the top 3, and then you can go from there. I think the Wild are probably number 2 just because of what they've got, and you can call me a homer, whatever you want. That's fine. And I think St. Louis rounds out your top 3. You can call me a homer. That's fine. I really do feel strongly that the Wild are the second best team in the division as it currently stands. And I think, St. Louis is right there as well, of course. Nashville. And then the bottom 2 are going to be Chicago and Arizona.
They might be the 2 worst teams in the league.
Exactly. Awful.
Yeah.
And they did it to themselves. It's really hard to bottom out worse than Arizona, but Chicago's doing it, and they're doing it right in front of our eyes. What a
well, I think they're trying to do it, but yeah.
I think they are too, and it's just so sad. And if I'm Patrick Kane, I'm livid.
Did you say Central Division or Western Conference,
I
Brandon?
said Central Division.
Okay. Colorado, St. Louis, Minnesota, Winnipeg, Dallas, Nashville.
Ooh. Dallas ahead of Nashville.
Yeah.
And Winnipeg ahead of Nashville.
Yeah, I like Winnipeg.
I think Winnipeg has a chance. They've got talent.
They do. And they have a new coach, and they will defend a little bit better this year. Because if you don't under bonus, you're going to be sitting in the stands. And I think they might have the best goalie in the division.
I think it's obvious Arizona and Chicago are not going to compete. Right?
No.
I mean, those 2 are going to be in the bottom 2, and I think there's not much discussion about that. Now, it's hockey, so weird things can happen. But number 1, I think most people would have Colorado. Then you have this, 2 through 6 that I think is kind of hard. I think I would place Dallas 6th.
Okay.
They're putting a lot on Jake Ottinger's shoulders, and he was phenomenal in the postseason last year. And if he continues that and sustains that, then Dallas can be a playoff team. There's no doubt about it. But that's a lot to put on a young goaltender, and they don't have the goaltending depth they once did. They lost Klingberg to Anaheim. Ben and Sagan are another year older. What are the odds that Pavelski's going to have the year he had last year? So I would probably put Dallas as 6, and then I would probably put Wild 2. I hope that doesn't come off as being a homer. And then
Homer.
Winnipeg's the wild card. Winnipeg could go 2. They could go 6. I think there's a wide range of outcomes for that team. Nashville's another one of those teams where I look at their roster and go, how can they duplicate last season? How can they be as good on the power play as they were last year? Can Roman Josi duplicate that season again? But they get Ryan McDonough. Their decor should be pretty solid. Their goaltending should be pretty solid. I don't know if they can score like they did last year, but if they somehow can sustain that, then they should be a playoff team as well. All right. Before we move on to puck props, I would like to take this time to talk about our sponsor on Beyond the Pod. That would be SodaStick.com. Go to SodaStick.com to get your original Minnesota sports-inspired goods. If you haven't seen this stuff yet, you got to check it out. All of their apparel screen printed here in Minnesota on super soft, super comfy shirts. You'll love it, and we're going to hook you up with 15% off your next order. So use the code KFN for 15% off. That is SodaStick.com, original Minnesota sports-inspired goods. Use the code KFN for 15% off. We're debuting a new feature on Beyond the Pod today, and we got to have music when we do it. It's called Puck Props. I came up with my own Minnesota Wild props for this season. Maybe we can keep track of these at the end of the year, and you guys can we can have a little contest between the two of you to see who was right and who was wrong. Is that music a little loud? I apologize. Hold on.
No.
Sounds good to me.
All right. We'll begin with you, Kevin Falness. You guys are both going to answer this. Puck prop number 1, Kirill Kaprizov, over or under 50 goals this season?
I have to pick under. I'm hoping for over, but if I was going to place a bet, I would say under. What are the odds that he reaches the 50-goal plateau? I hope it's over, but I would pick under.
Easy over for me.
Ooh, easy over.
Easy.
I also want an explanation with some of this as well. I don't just want the answer.
Yeah. I think he's improving. He's going to be on the power play all the time. If he doesn't get 50, this team might not make the playoffs. So, I for those reasons alone, I just think the growth. There's still a lot of growth there. He understands who he's playing against, their tendencies. I think he'll figure that out. He's a freak.
He did have 47 last year, by the way, 47 goals. And I've seen a couple people throw out Hart Trophy with him. People are predicting him to be the MVP this season. I mean, there's a reason I threw the line out because I think it's 50-50 on either side. I think he's going to get close to it. I think it's definitely a possibility. All right, we'll begin with. Go ahead, Pat.
Might get 60.
Well, 60 is a lot. That's a lot. All right, Pat, you're going to lead us off on puck prop number 2.
Okay.
Matt Boldy, over or under 70 points this year?
Has to get over 70. He'll be playing a lot of the power play. He was on pace for at least that a year ago. Should have been considered for Rookie of the Year and wasn't. Kevin. So I think he will because he's going to get a lot of ice time. He's going to get a lot of power play time. I think the power play will be improved. And so I think he'll get over 70.
I'd agree with that, Brandon and Pat. I would say over. I think a more compelling question would be who's going to get more points this year, Boldy or Fiala. I would take the over for Boldy as well. Wow. I just think he's that type of a player. I think he's going to have that role with this team. And I really think Boldy's going to have another breakout season for Minnesota.
So you're not concerned about Boldy without Fiala this year?
I'm really not. I think if I'm Fiala, I'm more concerned for him not playing with Boldy. I think they both.
Well, he's playing with Kopitar.
They both benefited from each other, but I really
think
right. Fiala's going to have a tough time without Boldy.
But he is playing with Kopitar, so I mean he's playing with top line guys in Los Angeles. I think Boldy is going to have a big time year. He just take what you want out of preseason. He looks bigger, stronger, faster to me. And last year he was pretty darn good. So
confident.
And confident, yeah. All right, puck prop number 3, Kevin Falness. Marco Rossi, over or under 45 points?
I got to take over. I think I think that's another kid that's going to have an integral part of this lineup. I think 45 is actually low. I'm expecting big things from Marco Rossi. I know that it's been a tough road to get to this point, but he looks dynamic, and he fits right into this lineup. Say that he's on the fourth line, that's not your typical fourth line. He's got wingers that can fly on each side of him, and they're going to just move their legs, and I think they're going to help him out. He's going to get time on the power play. I want, with a bullet, say over 45 points for Marco Rossi.
No. Not playing on the fourth line, and yes, he'll play some power play, but he's just not going to get enough ice time for that to happen. I think he's capable of being a high producing point guy, but not this year.
You know, it was one of those lines that was difficult for me to set, because if he moves into your top six and he's playing on a regular basis, like, I think he can eclipse 45 points, but he's starting on the fourth line, and, you know, I get that Dewar and Duhaime aren't your typical average fourth liners, but you're not going to get the amount of ice time. And now he will play power play time, but second power play unit. So he gets out there for the last 30, 40 seconds after the puck's already been iced down. The other part of this is, Pat, can he hold up for an 82-game season at the National Hockey League level with bigger, stronger players, right? Like, are we worried about injuries at all with him? So that's kind of why I set the line where I did.
Yep.
Bring this puck prop back to me in 6 months, and I'll tell you I was right.
I'm not saying you're wrong. I think he's very capable of getting over 45 points.
Hey, and I'd love for you to be right. I would love it.
All right. Another puck prop. Who are we on here? Are we on Pat?
Yeah.
Joel Eriksson Ek, Marcus Foligno, Jordan Greenway combined, over or under 55 goals?
55 goals.
The three of them combined.
55 or 65?
55.
No.
Under?
Under. I think because Greenway's going to be out. I don't know how long he'll be out, but I still think he's a 10 to 12 goal scorer. Foligno had, unbelievable year. I don't think that he can't match it. I think you're going to see Ek again around that 20. So no, I'm going to go under.
Under. All right, Kevin.
I think I'd agree with under as well. I was trying to think of the number where I would feel comfortable for each of them. You know, if Ek got 15, if Greenway got maybe 15, would be a great year, I think, for Greenway if he got 15, although you'd really want more from him. And even 20 from Foligno. I would take under on 55 for what I call the freak line.
Kevin, you disappointed me. You were going to go over on all these props today, and I was going to accuse you of being a homer, and now you finally go under. The three of them, by the way, had 59 goals last year, but obviously Greenway won't start off right away, and maybe Foligno, Eriksson Ek career type years, who knows? But I also think there's room for Greenway to grow from where he was at last year. So
for sure,
that's why the prop was at 55. All right, Kevin. Special teams has been big for the Minnesota Wild. Over or under the power play being 22.5% this year.
It looks so good in the preseason, and my expectations are so high. And if they don't improve the special teams, power play in particular, I hate to think what the consequences are going to be. So I'm going to pick over. I want it to be over. It needs to be over for them to get where they want to be, and not only in the regular season, for them to have success in the postseason. The special teams have to be better, including the power play. So I'm going to pick the over because it has to happen.
There used to be a time when 20% was phenomenal, and that has changed. I would hope. I'm going to say under, but I'm going to be happy if they are at 20%.
Well, last year they were at 20.5%. So as much criticism as the power play took last year, which is probably more power play basis than regular season, but during the regular season, they were 18th in the league at 20.5%. Last year, 22.5% would have gotten you to about 10th. So I had that to be at about the top 10 of the league. All right, final one. Pat, I'm stealing this one right from Vegas. Minnesota Wild over or under 100 points this season?
Under.
Man, you're down on this club.
Not at all. Not at all. But I'll say under, and again, hoping I'm completely wrong, but I have concerns about the goaltending holding up. And it's not that I don't trust the goaltending. It's just that it's the unknown. To me, it's the unknown. If you would have told me Talbot, Fleury, I'm really comfortable with them getting over 100 points because they're both veterans. They both play and are proven NHL goaltenders. When you have a backup that's not, even though all indications are he will be, I got to see it. I have to see it first. So I'm going to go under 100.
How'd the Avalanche do last year with Darcy Kemper in goal? If I'm going to pick an over-under, I'm going to pick
Is that the comparison you want to make, Kevin?
Yeah, are you sure?
For me, I'm going to pick the over. I think for this team to finish second in the division, which I would predict, I think they have to have 100 points or better. So I think that's a pretty good line, 100 over or under. But I would pick.
Well, I stole it from Vegas.
I do expect them to finish second in the division. You're going to need 100 points to catch up with to stay pace with Colorado.
And Brandon, here's why. Another reason why I go under 100. I think the Blues, Nashville, Winnipeg, Dallas, and Minnesota, they're going to play each other. They're going to beat each other, and I think they're going to wash each other out quite a bit during the season. And they're just too bundled. I think
they also get a lot of Chicago and Arizona.
Yeah, I was just pointing. I was going to break up.
Yeah, but you know what?
But what's your point, Pat? The Wild did not fare well against Nashville, St. Louis, even Dallas to a certain extent last year during the regular season, even Winnipeg during the regular season last year.
And let's not forget, we can pick on Arizona and Chicago. They're going to commit. They're going to go into Colorado some night and beat them. That's just the National Hockey League. And yeah, you can snicker, you can do whatever you like, but hey, Buffalo comes in here a year ago. Oh, snicker. Buffalo, they suck.
Kevin never snickers.
Never snicker. They'll get 12 wins, and I guess they'll come somewhere, but maybe sometimes against the best teams, but we'll see.
Well, last year they owned the Eastern Conference, struggled against the Central Division. Hopefully that'll probably not going to own the Eastern Conference like they did last year. Hopefully they're better against the Central. All right, that's it for our first ever episode, our debut of Puck Props. Kevin, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
All right, he's Kevin Falness. You can hear him on the Minnesota Wild radio network. Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
All right, Pat. Before we get to stick taps, let's talk about the Gophers Mankato series last week, and they split. The Gophers win on Friday night, and the Mavericks win down in Mankato on Saturday night. What are your thoughts on the series?
Well, two good teams going at it early. I don't like to really analyze these two teams now because they're going to be completely different come January. Both really, really good teams. Minnesota State's so well coached and they've got some guys. They've got a good team. Goaltending is going to be something that we got to keep an eye on with them. Although they don't give up a lot of shots, but they played Minnesota really well on Saturday and got the win. So I predicted a split going into the series, and it ended up that way.
All right, let's finish it off with some stick taps. Pat, who do you want to give your stick tap to today?
Well, I've got to give it to the freshman Gopher, Jimmy Snuggerud. His father was a line mate of mine, so I was really, really happy for him. He gets 4 goals on the weekend for a freshman. Scored a goal Saturday night in Mankato that you could score in the National Hockey League. It was that good. He can really shoot the puck and is not afraid to. So really happy for him. 4 goals on the weekend. Stick tap to Jimmy and his father, David.
I was too also going to give a stick tap to Jimmy Snuggerud. What a phenomenal start to your Gopher hockey career hat trick against a pretty darn good team, Pat. This isn't this isn't one of the worst teams in college hockey. To beat a top 5 team to score a hat trick and then get a goal the following day, pretty impressive. I'm also going to do some stick taps to a former Minnesota Wild forward, Nino Niederreiter. His first 2 games as a Nashville Predator. He's no longer with the Carolina Hurricanes, with the Nashville Predators. They played the 2 early games in Europe in Prague, and he scores 3 goals in the first 2 games. So great job to former Minnesota Wild player Nino Niederreiter. All right, Pat, thank you so much. We'll talk to you next week and we'll be talking about actual Minnesota Wild regular season games.
Looking forward to it, Brandon.
Next week. All right. He's Pat Micheletti. I'm Brandon Mileski. This has been another episode of Beyond the Pod. As always, it's brought to you by sodastick.com. We'll talk to you next week right here on Beyond the Pod. Bye.